So we've got the last three readings today, tomorrow, and the next day. And Long Paul has been reading from Being Dharma, which we're calling Being Dhamma. So we're making it more Theravada. And there's about that number of readings left. So we'll see how far we get. This is section 5, Being Dhamma. Beyond cause and effect. Once in the past, I was living with a small group of monks. We stayed in the forest where we had a small sala and altar without much light. One monk was reading a book there, and when his candle burned down, he left the book and went away. Another monk came along and stepped on the book in the dark. He picked it up and thought, that monk doesn't have much mindfulness. Why didn't he know to put the book away? He found the first monk and asked him, "Why didn't you put the book away? I came and stepped on it." The first monk replied, "You didn't have self-control. You weren't careful, so you stepped on the Dhamma book." And the other responded, "Why didn't you take care of the book and put it away?" They went back and forth, one blaming the other for not taking care of the book properly, the other blaming him for not being careful and stepping on the book. It's like this if you are only looking for logical answers. There will be no end. In the matter of real Dhamma, you have to discard cause and effect. Dhamma is higher than this. The Dhamma the Buddha was enlightened to can quell the mental afflictions and remove suffering. It is above cause and beyond effect. There is no suffering and no happiness. The Dhamma the Buddha taught can pacify our lives, purge causes and results. If you just rely on the logic of cause and effect, there will be endless dispute, like the two monks arguing over stepping on the book. They could go on forever, logically discussing their reasons. There's no peace this way. We who study should learn about cause and effect. Happiness comes from such and such causes. Suffering comes from such and such causes. We come to know that there is always cause and result in actions. But the Dhamma realized by the Buddha is pacification, that which is above cause and result, beyond happiness and suffering, beyond birth and death. But now you have even more doubts when you hear about this. This is something really important. This is the Dhamma that brings peace. Our desire, our wish to know things quickly, is not Dhamma. It is only our desire. If we act according to desire, there's never any end. You know the story of Ananda, the Buddha's attendant. His faith was as strong as anyone's. There was to be the Sanghayana, the Sangha Council, after the passing of the Buddha, and only Arhants would be allowed to attend. Ananda was determined to attain the stage of Arhant and began strenuous practice so he could join them. But his mind would not do what he wanted it to. He was in this coarse state, and over again he was only meeting with frustration. Tomorrow is the Sanghayana. All my Dhamma friends, the Arhants, will be attending, but I am still an ordinary person. What should I do? He decided to meditate from dusk to daybreak. He went at it, but he was only getting fatigued. Coming to the end of his tether, he decided to take a brief rest. At dawn, he set down a pillow and made ready to rest. Having made the determination to rest, his mind had already started letting go, putting down his business. Then, lying down, even before his head hit the pillow, his mind let go completely, and he saw the Dhamma. He was enlightened to the Arahant stage. Seeking to let go, we can never do it. We could try for years and it wouldn't happen. But in that moment, when Ananda had decided to stop, to take a rest and put down his burden of wanting attainment, just resting with mindfulness established, the mind let go and he was able to see and awaken. He didn't have to do anything special. Before, he wanted something to happen and it didn't work. There was no occasion to take a rest, no occasion to awaken to the Dhamma. Understand that becoming enlightened to the Dhamma is a matter of letting go with wisdom, with knowing. It doesn't come about through wanting and struggling, but from letting go in full mindfulness. When there is this taking a rest, nothing is bothering the mind. There is no desire to disturb it. then instantly the mind can awaken, as in Ananda's case. Ananda was practically unaware of himself. He knew only that he wasn't getting what he wanted. Desire for enlightenment was thwarting all his efforts, so he decided to take a break. Enlightenment is not something easy to talk about and make people understand. It's difficult to practice if people have the wrong idea. For example, the Buddha said this place is not a place for people to dwell. There are the floor and the roof. If there is no roof and no floor, then there is nothing, right? There's nothing to talk about. The space in between is not the place where people can live. There's no becoming there. Becoming is the upper story or the lower story. If people are going to live somewhere, they must live upstairs or downstairs. No becoming? People aren't interested. People are not interested in letting go. With letting go, is there anything being born? When you go upstairs, that is becoming. You may feel it's nice up there in the high place. Coming down is not so pleasing to you. You feel it's nice, but it is the root of suffering. You don't want to put down this pleasure and pain and experience normalcy because you prefer the place where there is becoming. The place without becoming is not of interest to you. Even just to try to conceive of it is hard. What the Buddha was referring to when he spoke of the place without becoming and birth was just the state of non-attachment. Attachment is the cause for suffering to arise. We can't let go of this grasping attachment, and still we want peace. But it is not peaceful. We live with becoming. No becoming is something we can't conceive of. That is the habit of people, the mental afflictions of humans. Nibbana is said by the Buddha to be beyond becoming and birth. People don't understand this. They only understand matters of becoming and birth. If there's no becoming, there's no place to live. If there's no place to live, what will I do? How will I exist? Ordinary people think it's better to stay here. They want to be born again, but they don't want to die. Is there such a thing? If you want something that cannot be, you will have a big problem. People think like this because they don't understand dukkha. I want to be born, but I don't want death. It boils down to no more than this. The Buddha said that death comes from birth. If you do not want to die, don't be born. People think, well, I don't want to die. I want to be born again, but I don't want to die. You might conclude they are stubborn. Speaking with people who are under the sway of desire and attachment is difficult. Getting to the point of letting go will be really hard. Defilement and craving are like that. The Buddha taught about the state where things don't really exist. If there's no place to set a pillar, how can we talk about building something? That is like no becoming in birth, no place to be born. But when we talk about this, people cannot listen and understand. When talking about self, it is emphatically pointed out that there is no such thing. Self is simply a convention. On the absolute level, the level of liberation, it does not exist. There's just elemental nature arising only for the reason that causes and conditions are manifesting. We suppose that this is a self arising, and we grasp at it. When there is this supposition, we grasp at me, then there is mine arising together with it. But we don't even know how this is taking place. So people say things like, I want to be born, but I don't want to die. Speaking of entering the stream to Nibbana, if there is genuine knowing within you, there's no one desiring anything. And further, Nibbana is not a matter of wanting. It isn't something you can desire. This characteristic is not easy to understand. This Dhamma isn't something you can explain or give to people. Our parents might want to give it to us, but even they don't know what it is, and they have no means to do this. This is something to be known within yourself. You can tell others about it, but there is this problem. Will they really know what you are talking about? If they don't have the realization in their own minds, they won't get it. Thus, the Buddha said, the Tathagata merely points the way. Just as I am doing these days, I am one who explains, not the one who does it for you. having been told you need to practice and realize. Then the marvelous will arise and be known in your mind. There's a story in the scriptures of people asking the Buddha about Nibbana. When he refused to elaborate on it, they began to say it was because he didn't know. How could the Buddha not know? The point is that such a thing is to be realized by each individual. When I speak like this, if you just hear it and believe me, that's not so good. It's not yet genuine. Those who believe others are said by the Buddha to be foolish. He said to listen to things and then contemplate to experience the truth of them. You should be able to listen without merely denying. Receive the words, not merely believing, but investigate their meaning. It isn't a matter of believing or not believing. Put those aside for the time being and contemplate to the best of your ability. There are the two extremes. We lean toward either side, but we don't like to stay in the middle. The middle is the lonely way. When there is attraction, we go that way. When there is aversion, we go that way. Putting them down is lonely. We refuse to go there. The Buddha taught that neither extreme is the way of one who is tranquil. We need to be free of pleasure and pain, for neither is the way of peace. Once free of these things, we can be peaceful. Thinking, I am so happy, is not it. That is just happiness for suffering in the future. These are things we have to be wary of. Walking the path, we see the two extremes and keep going. We keep to the middle without desiring them, because we want peace, not pleasure or pain. This is the correct path. The practice of Dhamma is leading to the point of letting go, but we must have knowledge of things according to the truth in order to let go. When real knowledge arises, there will be endurance in the practice of Dhamma. There will be enthusiastic, consistent effort. This is called practicing. Once you have gotten to the end, you don't need to use the Dhamma. Like a saw that you sharpen to cut wood. Once the wood is cut, you put down the saw. You don't need to use it then. The saw is the Dhamma. The Dhamma is the tool to help you attain path and fruition. Once we have accomplished this, we put it down. Once the job is done, why would you keep holding the saw? The wood is the wood. The saw is the saw. This is about stopping, having reached the essential point, the end of all the taints of craving and ignorance. The wood is cut. You don't have to cut anymore. You can put the saw down. One who will practice must rely on the Dhamma. That's someone who is not yet finished. But if the job is done, then you don't have to do any more. You can naturally let go at that point. With no more attachment and giving meaning to things, there is no need for any more doing. It is the state of peace. When we hear about it, we are full of doubts. What can it be? It seems so far away, but it's actually very close. It is something you can discover in your own mind. Things arise, and you come to realize they are not certain. This is not real. That is not real. Where is the real? Right there, trying to surmise. This is like this, that is like that, is not right. Let go of things. Put down the judging and guessing. We go back and forth, passing it by again and again, and we are always in a state of suffering. End your doubts here. End your doubts and stop. Make an end of it right here. Nibbana Paccayo Hotu. The profound teaching of Buddhism is that morality is necessary. Morality resides with the intentions of people. If you have the conscious determination to refrain from harmful activities and wrongdoing by way of body and speech, morality is coming about within you. You should know this within yourself. It's fine to take vows with another person, and you can also recollect the precepts by yourself. If you don't know what they are, you can request them from someone. It's nothing very complicated or distant. So really, whenever you wish to receive morality and Dhamma, you have them right at that moment. It's just like the air that surrounds you everywhere. Whenever you breathe, you take it in. All manner of good and evil are like that. If you wish to do good, You can do it anywhere at any time. You can do it alone or with others. Evil is the same. You can do it with a large or small group, in a hidden or open place. When there is morality, you should pursue Dhamma. Morality means the precepts as to what is prescribed and what is permissible. Dhamma refers to nature and to humans knowing about nature, how things exist according to nature. The Buddha taught Dhamma for us to know nature, to let go of it, and let it exist according to its conditions. This is talking about the material world. As to the mind, it can't be left to follow its own conditions. It has to be trained. We can say that mind is the teacher of body and speech, so it needs to be well trained. Letting it go according to its natural urges just makes us animals. It has to be instructed and trained. It should come to know nature, but should not be left merely to follow nature. Born into this world, all of us naturally have the afflictions of desire, anger, and delusion. Desire makes us crave various things and causes the mind to be in a state of imbalance and turmoil. It won't do to let the mind go after these impulses of craving. That can only lead to torment and distress. It's better to train in Dhamma, in truth. When aversion occurs in us, we want to express anger toward people, and it may get to the point of physically attacking or even killing someone. But we don't just let the impulse go according to its nature. We know the nature of what is occurring. We see it for what it is and teach the mind about it. This is studying Dhamma. Delusion is the same. When it happens, we are confused about things. If we merely leave it as it is, we remain in ignorance. So the Buddha told us to learn about nature, to train the mind, to know exactly what nature is. People are born with physical form and mind. In the beginning, these things are born. In the middle, they change, and in the end, they are extinguished. This is their nature. We can't do much to alter these facts. We train our minds as we can, and when the time comes, we have to let go of it all. It is not within the power of humans to change this or get beyond it. The Dhamma the Buddha taught is something to be applied while we are here for making actions, words, and thoughts correct and wholesome. He was teaching the minds of people so they would not be deluded in regard to nature, to conventional reality and supposition. The teacher instructed us to see the world. His Dhamma was a teaching that is above and beyond the world. We were born into this world. He taught us to transcend the world, not be prisoners to worldly ways and habits. It's like a diamond that falls into a muddy pit. No matter how much dirt and filth cover the diamond, they do not destroy the radiance, the hues, and the worth of it. Even though the mud is stuck to it, the diamond does not lose anything, but it's just as it originally was. There are two separate things. The Dhamma the teacher expounded was for going beyond suffering. What is this going beyond suffering all about? What should we do to escape from suffering? It's necessary for us to do some study. We need to study the thinking and feeling in our hearts, just that. It is something we are presently unable to change. We can be free of all suffering and unsatisfactoriness in life by changing this one point, our habitual worldview, our way of thinking and feeling. If we transform our sense of things, we transcend the old confused perceptions and understanding. The authentic Dhamma of the Buddha is not something pointing far away. It teaches self. It teaches about the concept of self, and that things are not really self. All the teachings the Buddha gave were pointing out that this is not a self, this does not belong to a self, there's no such thing as ourselves or others. When we contact this, we can't really read it. We don't translate the Dhamma correctly. We still think, this is me, this is mine. We attach to things and invest them with meaning. When we do this, we can't disentangle from them. The involvement deepens and the mess gets worse and worse. If we know that there is no self, the body and mind are really not self, as the Buddha taught, when we keep on investigating, we will eventually come to realize the actual condition of selflessness. we will genuinely see that there is no self or other. Pleasure is merely pleasure. Feeling is merely feeling. Memory is merely memory. Thinking is merely thinking. They are all things that are merely themselves. Good is merely good. Bad is merely bad. There is no real happiness or real suffering. There are merely existing conditions, merely happy, merely suffering, merely hot, merely cold, merely a being or a person. We should keep looking to see that these things are only so much. Only earth, only water, only fire, only air. We should keep on reading these things and investigating this point. Eventually our perception will change. The tight conviction that there is self and things belonging to self will gradually come undone. When this sense of things is removed, the opposite perception will keep increasing steadily. When the realization of selflessness comes to full measure, we will be able to relate to things of this world, to our most cherished possessions and involvements, to friends and relations, wealth, accomplishments, and status, just as we do our clothes. When clothes are new, we wear them. They get dirty and we wash them. After some time, they are worn out and we discard them. There's nothing out of the ordinary there. We're constantly getting rid of the old things and starting to use new garments. We will have the exact same feeling about our existence in this world. We will not cry or moan over things. We won't be tormented or burdened by them. They will remain the same as they were before, but our feeling toward and understanding of them will be changed. Our knowledge will be exalted, and we will see the truth. We will have attained supreme vision and authentic knowledge of the Dhamma. The Buddha taught the Dhamma that we ought to know and see, and this Dhamma is right here within us, within this body and mind. We have it already. We should come to know and see it. Whatever we gained by our birth into this human realm, we are going to lose. We have seen people born and seen them die. We see this happening, but don't really see it clearly. When there is a birth, we rejoice over it. When someone dies, we cry for them. It goes on in this way, but there's no end to our foolishness. Seeing birth, we are foolhardy. Seeing death, we are foolhardy. There's only this unending foolishness. Let's take a look at all this. These things are natural occurrences. They are the Dhamma you should know and see. Make up your minds about this and exert restraint and self-control now while you are amid the things of this life. You shouldn't have fears of death. Rather, you should fear the lower realms. Be afraid of falling into hell because of doing wrong while you still have life. Some people are alive but don't know themselves at all. They think, what's the big deal about what I do now? I can't know what's going to happen when I die. They don't think about the new seeds they're creating for the future. They only see the old fruit. They fixate on the present experience, not realizing that if there is fruit, it must have come from a seed, and that within the fruit they have now are the seeds of future fruit. These seeds are just waiting to be planted. Actions born of ignorance continue the chain in this way, but when they are eating the fruit, they don't think about all the implications. Whatever we are experiencing as part of our lives now, one day we will be parted from it. So don't just pass the time. Practice spiritual cultivation. Take this parting, this separation and loss as your object of contemplation right now, until you are clever and skilled in it, till you can see that it is ordinary and natural. When there is anxiety and regret over it, recognize the limits of this anxiety and regret, knowing what they are according to the truth. If you can consider things in this way, wisdom will arise. Whenever there is happiness or suffering, wisdom can arise at that moment. If we know happiness and suffering for what they really are, we know the Dhamma. If we know the Dhamma, we know the world clearly. If we know the world clearly, we know the Dhamma. But for most of us, if something is displeasing, we don't really want to know about it. We get caught up in the aversion to it. If we dislike someone, we don't want to look at his face or get anywhere near him. Just to see his house or even his dog can make us angry. This is the mark of a foolish, unskillful person. This is not the way of a wise person. If we like someone, then of course we want to be close to them. We make every effort to be with them, taking delight in his company. This is foolishness also. They are actually the same, like the palm and back of the hand. When we turn the hand up and see the palm, the back of the hand is hidden from sight. When we turn it over, the palm is not seen. Pleasure hides pain, and pain hides pleasure from our sight. Wrong covers up right, right covers wrong. Just looking at one side, our knowledge is not complete. Let's do things completely while we still have life. Keep on looking, separating truth from falsehood, noting how things really are, getting to the end of it and reaching peace. Eventually we will be able to cut through and let go completely. We have not yet left this world, so we should be careful. We should contemplate a lot, make copious charitable offerings, recite the scriptures a lot, cultivate a lot, cultivate reflection on impermanence, on unsatisfactoriness, and on selflessness. Even if the mind does not want to listen, we should keep on breaking things down like this and come to know in the present. This can most definitely be done. We can realize knowledge that transcends the world. Even while we are living in this world, our view can be above the world. To put the Buddha's teaching in a nutshell, the point is to transform our view. It's possible to change it. It only requires looking at things, and then it happens. We don't need to look up at the sky or down at the earth. The Dhamma we need to see and to know is right here within us, every moment of every day. This is what the Buddha taught about. He did not teach about gods and demons and nagas, protective deities, jealous demigods, nature spirits, and the like. He taught the things we should know and see, truths we certainly should be able to realize. The truth can be seen in the hair, nails, skin, and teeth. Previously they flourished, now they are diminished. The hair thins and becomes gray. Will you say it is something you can't see? Really, we don't want to see, because we feel this shouldn't be happening. But the Buddha called these divine messengers, or devadutas. Here they are telling you, your hair has turned gray now, your eyesight has become weak, your back is bent. They are the excellent teachers of impermanence, showing you the transitory nature of life and leading you to dispassion. You certainly should be able to see with a little investigation. If we really take an interest in all of this and contemplate seriously, we can gain genuine knowledge. If this were something that could not be done, the Buddha wouldn't have bothered to talk about it. Normally we speak in terms of self, talking about me and mine, you and yours, but it is possible for the mind to remain uninterrupted in the realization of selflessness. How many tens and hundreds of thousands of the Buddha's followers have come to realization over the centuries? If we are really keen on looking at things, we can come to know. The Dhamma is like that. So the Buddha said you should take the Dhamma as your foundation, as your basis. Living and practicing in the world, will you take yourself, your ideas, your desires, and opinions as a basis? Taking yourself as the standard, you become self-absorbed. Taking someone else as your standard, you are merely infatuated with that person. Being enthralled with yourself or with another is not the way of Dhamma. Dhamma doesn't incline to any individual or follow personalities. It follows the truth. It does not simply accord with the likes and dislikes of people. Such habitual reactions have nothing to do with the truth. If we really consider all of this and investigate thoroughly, we will enter the correct path. Why is it that we have suffering? Because of lack of knowledge, not knowing where things begin and end, not understanding the causes. This is ignorance. When there is this ignorance, various desires arise, and, driven by them, we create the causes of suffering. Then the result must be suffering. When we gather firewood and put a match to it, then expect not to have any heat, what are our chances? We are creating a fire, aren't we? This is origination itself. If you understand these things, morality will be born within you, Dhamma will be born, so prepare yourselves well. The Buddha advised us to prepare ourselves. We needn't have too many concerns or anxieties. Just look within. Look at the place without desires, the place without danger. The Buddha taught, Nibbana Paccayo Hotu, let it be a cause for Nibbana. Being a cause for the realization of Nibbana means looking at the place where things are empty, where things are done with, where they reach their end and are exhausted. Look at the place where there are no more causes, where there is no more self or other, me or mine. This looking becomes a cause or condition, a condition for attaining Nibbana. Then practicing generosity becomes a cause for realizing Nibbana. Practicing morality becomes a cause for realizing Nibbana. Listening to the teachings becomes a cause for realizing Nibbana. Thus we can dedicate all our Dhamma activities to become causes for Nibbana. But if we are not looking toward Nibbana, if instead we're looking at self and other and grasping without end, this does not become a cause for Nibbana. When we deal with others and they talk about self, about me and mine, about what is ours, we immediately agree with this viewpoint. We immediately think, yeah, that's right. But it's not right, even if the mind is saying, right, right. We have to exert control over it. It's like a child who is afraid of ghosts. Maybe the parents are afraid too, but it won't do for the parents to talk about it. If they do, the child will feel she has no protection or security. No, of course Daddy is not afraid. Don't worry, Mommy is here. There are no ghosts. There's nothing to worry about. Well, the father might really be afraid, but if he starts talking about it, they will all get so worked up about ghosts they'll jump up and run out of the house, father, mother, and child, and end up homeless. This isn't being clever. You have to look at things clearly and learn how to deal with them. Even when you feel that deluded appearances are real, you have to tell yourself that they are not. Go against it. Teach yourself inwardly. When the mind is experiencing the world in terms of self, saying, it's true, you have to be able to tell it, it's not true. You should be floating on the water, not submerged by the floodwaters of worldly habit. The water is flooding our hearts. If we run after things, do we ever look at what is going on? Will there be anyone watching the house? Nibbana Paccayo Hotu. One need not aim at anything or wish for anything at all. Just aim for Nibbana. All manner of positive results, merit and virtue in the worldly way will naturally come as well. Don't end up like someone with a stick and a basket struggling to get mangoes off a tree. If the stick isn't the right length, the mangoes remain out of reach, or they will be knocked haphazardly to the ground, where they will get bruised and end up rotting. Making merits and skillful kamma, hoping it will cause you to attain some better state, you don't need to be wishing for a lot of things. Just aim directly for Nibbana. Wanting virtue, wanting tranquility, wanting all sorts of results, you just end up in the same old place. It's not necessary to desire these things. You should only wish for the place of cessation. Throughout all our becoming and birth, we are so terribly anxious about so many matters. When there is separation, when there is death, we cry and lament. I can only think how utterly foolish this is. What are we crying about? Where do we think people are going anyhow? If they are still bound up in becoming and birth, they are not really going away. When children grow up and move to the big city, they still think of their parents. They won't be missing others as parents. When they return, they will go to their parents' home, not someone else's. And when they go away again, they will still think about their home here in Ubon. Will they be homesick for some other place? What do you think? So when the breath ends and we die, no matter through how many lifetimes, if the causes for becoming and birth still exist, the consciousness is likely to try and take birth in a place that it is familiar with. I think we are overly fearful about all of this. So please don't go crying about it too much. Think about this. It is said, karma drives beings into their various births. They don't go very far. They cycle back and forth through the round of births, just changing appearance, appearing with a different face next time. But we don't recognize this. We're just coming and going, going and returning on the round of samsara, really just remaining where we are, like a mango that is shaken off the tree and falls to the ground with a thud. It's not going anywhere. So the Buddha said, Nibbana Paccayo Hotu, let your only aim be Nibbana. Strive hard to accomplish this. Don't end up like the mango falling to the ground, going nowhere. If you can transform your sense of things like this, you will know and see great peace. Please make this effort to change and come to see and know. These are things you should see and know. If you do see and know, then what else do you need to do? Morality will come to be. Dhamma will come to be. When you transform your view, you will realize it's like watching leaves fall from the trees. When they get old and dry, they fall. When the spring comes, they begin to appear again. Would anyone cry when leaves fall or laugh when they grow? If you did, you'd be insane, wouldn't you? If you can see the natural order of things, it doesn't matter how many births you undergo, it will always be like this. When you study Dhamma, gaining clear knowledge and undergoing a change of worldview in this way, you will realize peace and be free of bewilderment about the phenomena of this life. Listening to the Dhamma should resolve your doubts. It should clarify your view of things and alter your way of living. When doubts are resolved, suffering can end. You stop creating desires and mental afflictions. Then, whatever you experience, if something is displeasing to you, you won't suffer over it because you understand its changeable nature. If something is pleasing to you, you won't get carried away and become intoxicated by it because you know the appropriate way to let go of things. You maintain a balanced perspective because you understand impermanence and know how to resolve things according to Dhamma. You know that good and bad conditions are always changing. Knowing internal phenomenon, you understand external phenomena. Not attached to the external, you are not attached to the internal. Observing within yourself or outside yourself, it's all completely the same. When we know the truth of things and don't get caught up in happiness and suffering over them, we don't need to apply forbearance because Dhamma is already present. Our experience is Dhamma. Whatever occurs is Dhamma, and the one who is aware of it knows according to truth. There has been a process of learning Dhamma and seeing Dhamma, and now things are appearing as Dhamma. When experience is Dhamma, we can stop. There is peace. There's no need to apply any Dhamma because everything is Dhamma. External and internal phenomena are Dhamma. The one who is aware is Dhamma. Conditions are Dhamma. This knowledge is Dhamma. There is oneness, liberation. This nature is not born. This nature does not age or decay. This nature does not die. This nature is not happy or sorrowful. It is not big or small, high or low, black or white, light or heavy. There is nothing to compare it to, no way to illustrate it. No conventions of speech can approach it. So it is said that Nibbana has no form, no color, or caste. All these are matters of convention, the relative reality of appearance. Beyond all these things, there is no convention that can apply to it or touch it. So when the Buddha talked about the plane of transcendence, he said, the wise will realize it individually for themselves. It cannot be proclaimed or shown to others. There's only the giving of skillful means. Those who attain it will make an end of things. To use the ordinary conventions of speech and concepts will not suffice. All convention ends here. In this way, we can dwell in a natural state, which is peace and tranquility. If we are criticized, we remain undisturbed. If we are praised, we are undisturbed. We let things be. We are not influenced by others. This is freedom. Knowing the two extremes for what they are and not stopping at either side, we can experience well-being. This is genuine happiness and peace, transcending all things of the world. We transcend all good and evil and are above cause and effect, beyond birth and death. Born into this world, we can transcend the world. This is the aim of the Buddha's teaching. He did not aim for people to suffer. He desired people to attain peace, to know the truth of things and realize wisdom. This is Dhamma. There is no need to be in confusion or have doubts about it. Wherever we are, the same laws apply. So while we are still living, we should train the mind to be even in regard to things. We should be able to share wealth and possessions. When the time comes, we should give a portion to those in need, just as if we were giving things to our own children. Sharing things like this, we will feel happy. If we can give away our wealth, then whenever our breath may stop, there will be no attachment or anxiety because everything is finished with. The Buddha said to die before you die, to be finished with things before they are finished. Then you can be at ease. Let things break before they are broken. Let them end before they are ended. This is the Buddha's intention in teaching the Dhamma. Even if you listen to teachings for 100 or 1,000 aeons, if you do not understand these points, you won't be able to undo your suffering and you will not find peace. You will not see the Dhamma. But understanding these things according to the Buddha's intention and being able to resolve things is called seeing the Dhamma. This view can make an end of suffering. It can relieve all heat and distress. Whoever strives sincerely and is diligent in practice, who can endure, who trains and develops to the full measure, such people will attain peace and cessation. Wherever they stay, they will have no suffering. Whether they are young or old, they will be free of suffering. Whatever their situation, whatever work they have to perform, they will have no suffering because their minds have reached the place where suffering is exhausted, where there is peace. The Buddha thus said to change your perceptions, and there will be the Dhamma. When the mind is in harmony with Dhamma, Dhamma enters the heart. The mind and the Dhamma become indistinguishable. This is something to be realized by those who practice, the changing of one's view and experience of things. The entire Dhamma is something to be realized individually. It cannot be given by anyone. That is an impossibility. If you hold it to be difficult, it will be difficult. If you take it to be easy, it is easy. Whoever contemplates it and sees the one point does not have to know a lot of things. Seeing the one point, seeing birth and death, the arising and passing away of phenomenon according to nature, you will know all things. This is a matter of the truth. This is the way of the Buddha. The Buddha gave his teachings out of the wish to benefit all beings. He wished for us to go beyond suffering and to attain peace. It's not that we have to die first in order to transcend suffering. We shouldn't think that we will attain this after death. We can go beyond suffering here and now, in the present. We transcend within our perception of things, in this very life, through the view that arises in our minds. Then sitting, we are happy. Lying down, we are happy. Wherever we are, we have happiness. We become without fault, experiencing no ill results, living in a state of freedom. The mind is clear, bright, and tranquil, like the sun or the full moon emerging from behind the clouds. There is no more darkness or defilement. That is when we have reached the supreme happiness of the Buddha's way. Please investigate this for yourselves. All of you, please contemplate this to gain understanding and ability. If you have suffering, practice to alleviate your suffering. If it is great, make it little. If it is little, make an end of it. Everyone has to do this for themselves. May you prosper and develop. That ends that section. There is a little bit more left in the book. And, a few minutes for questions, comments. Lumpur, any comments? Anything to add?
Hard to add much to that. It's pretty complete.
I liked how it starts out, the very beginning, where the two people are arguing.
Yes.
And it's easy to think of examples of how that happens on a daily basis.
I think again, just how Lumpur ties quote unquote ordinary life, existence, practice in with the transcendent. It's not far away. This is as Lumpur said. If you think it's going to be difficult, it'll be difficult. If you think it's easy, it'll be easy. And it's our how we get tangled up in our perceptions either way, how we can use perception skillfully.